Welcome to Oral Communication Week 5, Oral Communication Activities, Lesson 4, Functions of Communication. I am Mr. Nelpon Pisambalod and I am your teacher for this course. What students need to know. This module was designed and written with you in mind. It is here to help you master the different functions of oral communication and examine different oral communication activities. The scope of this module permits it to be used in many different learning situations. The language used recognizes the diverse vocabulary level of students. The lessons are arranged to follow the standard sequence of the course, but the order in which you read them can be changed to correspond with the textbook you are now using. The module is divided into two lessons, namely Lesson 1, Functions of Communication, Lesson 2, Verbal and Nonverbal Communication. After going through this module, you are expected to 1. Determine the verbal and nonverbal cues that the speaker uses in order to achieve a purpose. 2. Identify the purpose in a sample speaking engagement. 3. Utilize knowledge and the functions of communication in analyzing various communication situations. 4. Examine sample oral communication activities. 5. Evaluate the effectiveness of an oral communication activity. And lastly, recognize the importance of different communicative functions in our daily life. Lesson 4, Functions of Communication. What's the in? You might not have noticed, but every time you communicate with people around you, your manner of speaking, your tone of voice, and even your choice of words largely depend on the context and the person or people you are talking to. You transform and adapt to suit the need of the moment. It is important to note that those are forms of communication strategy to avoid misunderstanding and communication breakdown. This time around, you will explore the reasons why people communicate and speak specific ways. In the succeeding activities, you will have a chance to explore different situations to learn the various functions of communication and their relevance to your daily interactions with people. By observing how people communicate, you will find out what type of approach works best in a communicative scenario. In the process, it is with high hopes that this self-paced learning module can help you become a more effective communicator wherever you may go and whatever situation you may be. What's new? Look closely at the five pictures below. Imagine what goes on in their conversation. Then write a one or two sentence description inside the box below each picture, describing how the people talk and the purpose of their conversation. Now let us look at the pictures. The first image there, as you can notice, you have there a teacher explaining her lesson to the learners. The next photo, you have their group of friends, group of teenagers who are talking to one another and enjoying the time of their lives. Then you have here another photo. You see there seems to be a mother who's explaining or telling something to her daughter who's really listening on her. Then the next one, you have there a sports festival. Then someone is speaking in front of these athletes. Then the last one, you have here a mother who's trying to console or comfort her daughter. So let us figure out to which function of communication each photo belongs. In the activity, you were asked to describe what is happening in each of the pictures and how they communicate. Below are five boxes, and each box is a definition of a function of communication. Read the definitions carefully, then examine the pictures on the previous page. Match the box with definition to its corresponding picture by writing the letter inside a circle. After scrutinizing the five photos shown, let us find out to which function of communication each belongs. The first one here is the control and regulation. Whenever we say control and regulation, communication functions to regulate and control the behavior of a person or group of people. The next function is social interaction. Communication functions as a means to casually interact with other people. Then the third one, motivation. Communication functions to inspire or motivate a person or people to be or do better. Then number four, information dissemination. Communication functions as a way to share information or data in order to educate. Then the last function is the emotional expression. Communication functions as a way to connect to a person or people for the purpose of affecting them emotionally. So after reading the five functions of communication, let us try to connect the photos with these functions. How about the control and regulation? Which photo do you think belongs to it? Okay, again, you go back to the five photos. You get it correct. You have there the mother who's trying to explain something to her daughter. Remember, you have there a photo of a mother who's trying to explain or tell something to her daughter. That photo belongs to control and regulation. How about for social interaction? Yes. What do you have in mind dealing with the five teenagers or persons talking to one another? You are highly correct on grouping it or categorizing it under social interaction. They are just communicating with one another casually, or they are just interacting with one another. Then the third function is motivation. Which do you think among the given photos belong to motivation? You have there the photo of the sports fest wherein a speaker is trying to motivate, wherein you have there a speaker who's motivating the athletes in the said event. Okay, then how about for information dissemination? Of course, you have here the photo of a teacher explaining a certain lesson to her students. Then the last one is the emotional expression. Yes, you got it correctly. You have the mother who's trying to comfort her daughter. That is emotional expression. Again, these are the five functions of communication. What is it? Now that you're done matching the functions of communication with the given photos, let us check if you were able to do it correctly. Functions of communication. Picture A shows a parent figure explaining something to a child who needs to be reprimanded because of something that she did. As suggested by their behavior, the child listens attentively to what her mother is telling her. Their facial expressions also suggest that the mother is serious about what is she telling to her child. The picture shows control and regulation as communicative function. So that is control and regulation for as long as in the communication process you have there the function of controlling someone's behavior or regulating someone's behavior, and that is the context of the communication, then that is the function of communication, control and regulation. The picture B shows a group of friends who are casually talking with each other. It also suggests a very relaxed atmosphere as they hang out and probably share their funny stories. As you might have guessed, social interaction is the function of communication. It's very easy to identify whether the conversation that is happening is under social interaction. Why? For as long as you are just freely talking to one another and you're enjoying the conversation with one another without limitation or without making you feel anything bad, and you are just having the time of your life, then that is social interaction wherein you're making a strong connection with the people around you through communication. So again, that is social interaction. Let us check if we were able to match picture C with the proper communication function or function of communication. So picture C takes you inside a classroom where the teacher explains the lesson to her eager young learners who are all absorbed in the discussion. In this context, information dissemination is used because the teacher's primary goal is to share important information regarding the topic. So it's very easy to qualify or to categorize if the conversation that is happening is under information dissemination. Why? For as long as you are absorbing or you are being bombarded with information and you are learning from the communication that you are having with this group of people, and someone is really trying to instill something in you or sharing information to you, then that is information dissemination. That is the function of communication that you are in. Let's check if picture D is correctly matched with the function of communication or communication function. Picture D shows an image of a mother who is trying to console her child who might have shared her problems. Evidently, communication functions here as an emotional expression since both speakers use nonverbal cues such as tone of voice, body movement, and facial expressions to connect and properly express one's feelings and emotions. So it's easy to identify whether the conversation that is happening is under emotional expression because of course the emotion is there. You have there the strong emotion between or being expressed by one another. And of course, this emotional expression this function of communication is really evident not through the verbal words or the words being expressed by one another, but typically you have here the gestures of the speaker and of the receiver of the message, wherein typically you have there the tears, the crying, the hugging, the tapping of hands on the shoulder. So those are just cues that will tell you that the communication which is happening is under emotional expression. And of course, again, you can categorize this under emotional expression because you have there the involvement of the emotion. Okay, so let's have the last picture. Picture E. Let's find out if it's correctly matched with the communication function. Picture A gives you a closer look at a sports fest in a school. The speaker in the picture, who is possibly the school principal, talks in front of the students to do their best in the games. Properly selected words and phrases are essential for motivation because these functions of communication is all about persuasion and inspiration for the listeners to move and act. So, how are you going to categorize that the conversation happening that you are in is under motivation? Simple, if you have a strong feeling of pursuing your life and you are being motivated to go on with whatever you are doing through the words used or uttered by the speaker, then that conversation that you are in is under motivation function of communication. If you have the strong will to proceed with your life or to go on with your life, for that is the thing being insisted by the one who's talking, again, the function of communication is motivation. Okay? So now we are done discussing the five functions of communication. Let us check whether you were able to understand perfectly what are the functions of communication. Let's have what's more. In your next activity, you will need a picture for every function of communication. Pictures may be cut out from newspapers and magazines. Make a collage out of the pictures. When you are done with your functions of communication collage, study the pictures you have taken so you can fill out the chart below. So actually, you have there the chart beside. So functions of communication, again, we have control and regulation, social interaction, motivation, information dissemination, and emotional expression. And you will be writing something regarding what you think about the speakers, what the speakers are saying in the pictures that you have chosen. So you just check your Google Classroom and Google Form link for this activity. What I have learned. How would each of the following persons address or talk to the other involved person in the given situation? Use your knowledge of functions of communication in order to write in the speech balloon what he or she should appropriately say. So let's have the first scenario. Dr. Carlos is about to tell his patient that she needs to undergo a painful operation. So what function of communication we are going to use? Is it motivation, control and regulation, social interaction, information dissemination, or emotional? So it could be information dissemination because he's about to discuss to the patient that she needs to undergo a painful operation. Or it can be motivation that Dr. Carlos would be saying to the patient that, Miss, um, though you have this kind of illness, I do believe that you can still survive it because there are many success stories that can attest that this operation will be a big success. So it can be a motivating. Despite the scenario, you're still going to motivate the patient that she can make it. Okay? Of course, the choice of words should be what? Should be carefully done. Then, the next one. Miss Tuason finds out that one of her students was not able to submit her project on time. She then asked him to stay inside the classroom after dismissal so she can finish her work. Okay. But of course, Miss Tuason will not be leaving the student alone inside the classroom, just like in Maria Leonora Teresa. Okay? So it should not be done that way. So what could be the function of communication here? Is it control and regulation? Is it motivation? Emotional? Social interaction? Of course, it will not be social interaction because Ms. Tuason should be serious enough talking to the student so that he will feel He will feel that Miss Tuazon is serious on what she wants to say to him or her. Is it motivation? Yes, it could be motivation, depending on what will be your words in the balloon. Is it? It can be what? I know maybe you're having a hard time. Maybe you have many tasks in your home, but I do believe that with proper time management, like this and like that, you can still accomplish whatever task you have in the school. I know you, yeah, I know you can make it. I know that you will be complying to what I am asking you to do. Is it? Or it can be information dissemination. Is it information dissemination as Miss Tuason presents the score? Maybe. But actually it can be control and regulation because the main goal of Miss Tuason there is to correct the behavior of the students when it comes to being responsible inside the classroom. So that will be the perfect communication function, the control and regulation. Okay? So you think of the words that you will be using for the dialogue. So let's continue. So let's have the third photo. Ramon's sister is upset because of the low score she got in her test. He decides to talk to her so she would do better next time. So what function of communication? Yes, that is emotional. For the sister might be that emotional regarding her score. So, what will be the lines of Ramon? It can be what? Dear sister, do not feel so sad about it. I know that the next time you can do better. You can achieve high results. You just need to study ahead of time and manage it perfectly. Okay? So do not worry. I won't be telling mom and dad about it. I'll be telling them after the next exam, after the next test, so that if ever they will be angry on the first one, then you can just tell them that you have done great this time. Okay? So do not worry, sister. You can do it. So it can be emotional or motivational. Okay? Then the next one. Mr. Flores will announce on national TV that a storm is about to enter the coastal regions of eastern Luzon. So that is information dissemination, just like what is Mang Tani doing, is it? So what could be the line? We are now here in Pag-asa like this and like that, and I would like to inform you that the typhoon, that the low pressure area is now an official typhoon and it's already inside the Philippine area responsibility. So that is information dissemination, is it? Then let's have the last photo here. Tina wants to invite her Muslim friend to her birthday celebration. So of course, now you have there the invitation. My friend, I'm so happy to see you. It's good to see you because I'm about to invite you to come to my birthday celebration. Will you? Will you come? Okay, so that is social interaction. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the so-called social interaction, communication function has something to do with strengthening the bond with the people around us. Okay, so we are done with the five photos. Let us proceed. What I can do. Visualize your daily routine. What functions of communication do you often use? Write your answer on a sheet of paper, then explain why those functions are the most useful in your daily activities. Give specific situations to better illustrate your answer. So you check your Google Classroom and Google Form link. Check if you will be doing this activity. But for the meantime, start reviewing your daily routine so that you can assess and you will have idea on what you are going to write regarding this activity. Additional activity. Before we end our lesson on functions of communication, let us bring out your artistic and creative side. On a clean sheet of paper, draw a comic strip based on the scenes of a chosen movie or TV show. Your challenge is to come up with a comic strip that shows combinations of communicative functions. So you have there the rubric for scoring, the comic strip of yours. But again, do not forget that the functions of communication are control and regulation, social interaction, motivation, information dissemination, and emotional expression. So enjoy this activity. Check it in your Google Classroom. Thank you for joining me in our fifth week lesson. Hope that you have learned a lot. Good day and God bless us all.